Good afternoon, one and all. A pleasant good afternoon to St. Martiners living here on the island of St. Martin, and also those that are living in the diaspora, especially those persons that are living, St. Martiners that are living in Europe and in the United States, also in the Caribbean islands. You know, I want to say a special good afternoon to all of you. This afternoon, I have a very, I would say, a very popular person, a person that I look up to so much, and that person is none other than Mr. Diedrick Cannegieter. You know, Diedrick, back in the days when I was a very young man, I used to see Diedrick on Front Street where he had his business, and Diedrick was a local businessman. Today we are going to be doing an interview with Mr. Cannegieter, where he will be discussing and also there's a dialoguing with me pertaining to, you know, the things that he did here in St. Martin as a businessman and the way he has contributed to St. Martin. Good afternoon, Diedrick. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to know that. Yeah. Diedrick, where were you born? In St. Martin or the USA?
I'm a backstreet boy in Phillipsburg. I was born on Backstreet. Okay. And I don't think I should tell you my age.
Well, we don't ask people their age because it's up to them to say their age. People will look at you and they will kind of analyze, maybe it's that particular age, but they might be wrong. But who were your parents?
My parents was Aubrey Cannegieter. That was my father. Mm-hmm. My mother was Euphrasia Cannegieter, and we lived on Back Street. Mm. People call it the area with the parrot. There used to be a parrot there, and every time that a young lady goes up the street, up that alley, especially if she's wearing red, you would start whistling, you know, and the poor lady would be looking left and right and whatnot. But it was the parrot, so everybody knew it as the alley with the parrot. Yeah. So that's how they actually named it, you know.
I remember that.
But the name of the alley is Van Romont Stay, you know. So, but I knew your grandfather, and he used to. They used to call him Alec the Butcher. Everybody had a nickname in those days.
And what was yours? As a matter of fact,
I had 100 of them. I had a lot of nicknames.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
But where did you go to school? I mean, because in those days, I remember they had just about 3 elementary schools. They used to call it the Open Bar School. Mm-hmm. That was the Oranje School.
That's the one.
Then they used to call the Sister School.
Yes, yes.
That was St. Joseph School.
Yes.
Which one of them that you attended?
Oranje School.
Oranje School.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one I've been to.
Okay.
And at that time they had a lot of Dutch teachers, you know.
Okay.
You used to be from Holland and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then there were a lot of local teachers, like the Labega girls and so on. Okay. They were all teachers, you know, okay. Elementary teachers. And but all in all, I knew your grandfather.
Yeah, but what about the sister school? There's just the St. Joseph School. Mm-hmm. Because in those days, when I went to school there were a lot of nuns that used to teach in the elementary school.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it was a kind of Catholic school in those days.
Yes, yes. Well, that didn't last too long.
Yeah, but was that also the case at the Oranje School as well?
No, we didn't have the nuns there. We had local, this is the airplane, local, we had local teachers, religion, you know, so that's how it was.
Okay, so in the Oranje School, there were no nuns that taught there at the Oranje School?
No, never did.
Okay, but after finishing
it was more like Methodist.
Okay.
The sister school, as used to call it, that was more like Catholic. You know, so they actually had a little division there in terms of the schools, the elementary schools.
But after you finished with, after you completed the elementary school, where did you go from there? Did you go to a higher school? Did you go, because in those days, St. Martin didn't have much secondary schools.
No.
So where did you go to after?
I went on a vocational school to Puerto Rico. I've had that. They were offering at that time they were offering, what would you call it, scholarships.
Scholarship, okay.
So
St. Martin was offering scholarships.
yes,
St. Martin government.
yes, the government. And I spent, it was just about a 1 year learning a trade and so on. So at that time I studied electricity. So actually I'm supposed to be an electrician,
Okay.
but I really never did work at it. What was I saying?
You said you never ever did electricity work and you studied electrician.
Right.
So you never ever went to a home and hooked up the
hooked
electricity
up
at a
anything
home?
and
Never
no,
did that.
No.
So where did you take your career then?
Well,
after you finished with the school in Puerto Rico?
I helped out my father in the old Orania Cafe, helping him with
okay.
the business.
Okay.
And then later on, I started my own business, such as like at that time rental cars, for example.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I started with one little Volkswagen. I could remember that.
Wow.
And I went to, at that time it was the Windward Islands Bank, and I got a soft loan
From them.
from them. So I started with one little Volkswagen, and eventually, after the space of 3 years, I've increased to over 200 cars.
Wow. That was fast.
And we were very busy,
Wow.
very busy.
I mean, in those days, the tourist industry was growing very rapidly.
Rapidly, yes, very rapidly.
We just had one of the planes that are passing over here. We're here actually in Simsonbay at I don't know the name of this business, but we're here at a restaurant, and we are here in a discussion here with a very well-known icon of St. Martin, Mr. Diedrick Cannegieter. Diedrick, you know a lady by the name of Helena Cannegieter?
Helena Cannegieter. No, not that I could recall.
Okay. She's busy watching you, busy viewing this
Oh, really?
particular live broadcast. So
Well, hello, Helena.
yeah, exactly. You know, there's so many St. Martiners that is coming on and viewing you, so they're gonna kind of pick up the things that the life you lived here and the contribution you made to St. Martin as a local, businessman, as a local person. Going back to you, we were talking about your car rental company that you began. And what year did you open the car rental company?
It was 1963.
Wow.
Yes. We've been in business for quite a long time.
Okay.
And from there on, then we branched out and we went into real estate.
Okay.
We bought some good properties on the island, and we put them to good use. So I'm here now collecting my
Your investment.
my revenues investment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's very good to hear.
Yeah.
Because a lot of local people on St. Martin, they feel very disenfranchised, meaning that they feel as if, let's say, they are not being considered in their own country. I can recall back in the days, a lot of local businessmen, because I know when you had the Cannegieter car rental, when I came back from school, I used to work with Reggie Pantaflet. And Reggie also had a car rental company.
That's right.
Back in those days.
Yes.
And I remember the Carnegie car rental. I knew a lot of people that worked with you, a lot of
Yes, yes.
Of your staff,
Yes.
your employees. I knew all of them. Because we would always meet at the airport or we will see each other, taking cars to the tourists, etc. And they were good old days. But in those days, there were not much car rentals.
No, there was just a handful.
Yeah.
It was. I think there was Wisdom's car
It
rental.
was done.
It's Carnegie car rental. Who else? Reggie
Yeah.
Ponteflet
Reggie came after.
came out
in the 90s,
Yes, yes. And but they were owned by local people then.
Only local people.
Only local.
Only local
Today,
people.
it's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
Yes. Then Hertz came and Dollar came and
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, all those other companies,
I think Charlie Meyer was also in the car rental
Charlie-
company. I think he
Charlie,
was
yes.
the owner of Budget, I think it was. Budget car rental.
Budget, I think it was, yes.
Yeah. But those were all local people.
Yeah.
Because Hertz also, the owner was a French guy by the name of Romeo. I forgot his first name, but Romeo from the French side. He was the owner of Hertz Car Rental. Because they were all franchises. But the local people bought the franchise.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I remember those days. But in those days, how would you compare today with the days gone by when the local people used to be the ones that owned the car rental companies, they owned apartments, they owned all the groceries? Because I remember in Front Street, I remember the Carties had some kind of, they had a shop. They used to sell
Gift item.
gift items, etc. But how would you compare it now compared to back then?
In terms
In
of
terms of, you see much more persons from abroad is owning most of the businesses here in St. Martin. You don't see much profitable businessmen like before. What do you think caused that to happen?
well, the people that came here in those days came with money. The local people had no money. The local people couldn't get loans from the bank that easy,
Yeah.
And but once they've put their foot down in terms of getting serious with business, they were pretty well successful. But as you say, you see like Hertz and all those, they are franchises.
The franchises.
Yeah, and only people that had a good credit rating could get credit
Back in those days.
back in those days.
But what are some of the other businesses that you own? I know you talked about the car rental company that you started back in the 60s. You talk about the apartments that you built, the real estate. But what else did you do back then?
Let's see. I also started very long time ago is with postcard business.
Oh,
I started in like taking different shots of the island and then putting them in gift stores and whatnot. So that brought in a little
Income.
revenue. I don't think I'll ever get rich from it.
Exactly.
But there were 10 cents for a postcard in
Okay.
those days. But that's what I used to do. And I also bought some good properties, and they are at work today. They're giving me some decent revenues.
yeah, exactly. So you can survive.
So I could survive,
Yeah.
exactly. But what about the other guy out there that can't survive?
Exactly. Exactly.
How,
And there's a lot of
where
them.
is the motivation? Where
Yeah. But what caused you? Because I believe that your mindset was different than most of the St. Martiners. But what caused you to think in that way, that you invested in, let's say, real estate, knowing that tomorrow that you'll be able to cash back into it? Or what made you think that way? Was it your father that was that businessman that taught you those particular business practices?
Well, I guess by watching him, learning, see how he conduct business and so on, and that was some kind of an incentive. So I work with that, you know. But
But did you grew up, because you said you grew up in the business that your father had, that was called Oranje Cafe, I think it was.
yeah,
Because I
that
remember my
was
father frequenting that place whenever he finished work. They used to go there to play dominoes, and
especially
they went there. It was on the front street
on Saturdays.
on Saturdays.
You know,
It was a big
and
hangout
he
for
would bring in
yeah.
his lottery tickets and whatnot, and he had you know, because he started selling. My father was had the agency for Lance and Atare.
Okay.
So,
But how did it end up in the hands of because I remember my aunt and my grandfather actually did the Lance today as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he sold a lot. You know, he always used to walk with this attaché case and selling all of the Lance Lottery. And, but he was a very ambitious guy.
Your father?
No, your father.
No, of course. You mean my grandfather?
Your grandfather.
My grandfather. No,
Your grandfather was Alec the Butcher.
Alec the Butcher. Yeah, he was very ambitious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hard-working man.
Very hard-working person. Sent all his children to school, make sure they had an education. I remember those days. And how well did you know my father? Because my father was one of those that was a very hard-working person as well. He worked at Charlie Flan as a head mechanic for a number of years. How well did you knew him?
Yes. I knew Eki for a long time. I knew when he got the opportunity to work with Charlie Flan. And I think there was, on the back of the Oranje Cafe, there used to be like a training school for the young men who has left school and didn't know what to do with themselves because there was no opportunity. We didn't have that much money, you know, flying around the island. So what happened is that Eki got in touch with the instructors and he learned the job of mechanic and he was good at it. Everybody knew him.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Because I remember, everybody spoke that. I remember one of them, while I was interviewing them, they said, my father used to just tell the people that came to him to turn the car on and he listened to the noise or the sound of the car.
The sound.
And based on the sound, he was able to tell you exactly what the problem of the car was.
Yes.
I remember back in those days, people, explained that to me.
Yes.
So he was a very a mechanic that was very deep into, and he took his job extremely seriously.
Yes, he did.
And he got that from his grandfather, my grandfather, his father. Yeah. Another thing, Diedrick, I think I know that you went abroad to study as well, or you went abroad to live. You have lived here your entire life, or you lived abroad as well?
My entire life, I live here.
Your entire life you lived in St. Maarten?
Yes. If I go off island, it'll be just for a vacation.
Okay.
But come right back. I never went to, let's say, the States to live.
Okay.
You know? But all my life I actually
lived in St. Maarten?
Yeah.
Okay. But I know you had brothers that live in the States though.
Oh yeah.
I think Donald lived in the States as well? Donald?
Not exactly. Manfred did.
Oh, Manfred did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Manfred
was one of the great baseball players.
Player.
Yes.
Yes.
He used to, but you guys were born here, all of you were born in St. Maarten?
Yes.
Okay.
All of us.
I used to enjoy looking at Manfred. Playing baseball.
Good pitcher. Very strong.
Great pitcher. Yeah. I think he used to play with Dodgers back in the days. And I see Mr. Rafael Skeet. Rafael Skeet was known of Manfred Cannegieter.
Who's that?
Rafael Skeet. Rafael Skeet's a younger guy.
Oh.
But in those days, we used to look up at those guys, like Manfred Cannegieter, that played baseball. I think he played for the Dodgers in those days.
The Dodgers and Simca. There used to be a car, I think it was Swedish or something like that.
Okay.
And they supplied them with uniforms and whatnot. So Manfred and Donald played for, and Leo Friday.
Oh, Leo.
Also,
And what is Leo to you? Is Leo family to you?
good friends, old time good friends.
All time good friends.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so tell me something, because I know you were a town boy back in those days, and my father used to be someone from the country. How did you guys get along in terms of, working along with each other? Because my father came from Mill Region, you came from the city in Phillipsburg. What was your communication or your relationship with the men or the boys in those days from that area?
We had no problem with that. The island is small, It's like what we used to have problems with is in Phillipsburg, as small as it is, it's like the guys would say, oh, especially on the beach time when it's after school, you start, hanging out on the beach. Up street against down street. And we would clash, but you know how clash, innocent. We would clash by making sandballs and throw at each other.
Okay.
So up street against down street, but not to say that we were angry
With each other. But how did you get that name up street and down street? Because that is something I grew up always knowing.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like different set of people. Like down street is where up where townhouse was. That's what down street.
Townhouse was like down
Street.
down the street,
and then up street was more like over going to where Savage used to live.
Beyond the courthouse.
Beyond the courthouse.
Center would be
the courthouse area. Okay.
And we would meet like in center of town with our sandballs and we'd fight each other with that. But today now they're using guns and knives. And knives, yeah. I mean, it's like
it really changed. It changed a lot.
Completely changed.
And that's why you see a lot of youngsters in prison. You see a lot of youngsters getting killed for sometimes small little situations.
Yeah.
Nothing major.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. Back in those days, I just see George came out. I want to say good afternoon to George York, a police officer, Officer York. Back in those days, the police always were behind you guys for doing wrong things in Phillipsburg? Or?
No, the police was like a good old Samaritan protector.
Did you respect the police in those days as
definitely.
a young boy?
I used to be scared of the cops. So I was scared of the nuns too with their I don't know what you call it.
Their white, I remember like a hat type of tie.
It's a name for it. But
I know, yeah.
Anyhow, but the cops were pretty good. They were more kind of like family.
Okay.
They make sure that you don't get in trouble. Hey, boy, go home, Go to your mother or something like that.
So it was not like today where you have a big fight or argument and people pull out their guns and want to fight. It was nothing like that.
Nothing like that. Well, where are we going to get the guns? We were kids. Where are we going to get the guns, But that was in those days. But that's completely changed.
Yeah.
Never stayed the same way.
Now, going back to business, Diedrick, today I'm looking all over St. Martin because St. Martin has become a very tourist-oriented place. We see a lot of tourists coming. I mean, I was just on the airport a couple of days ago, and even though we had a major hurricane 2 years ago, we still see the tourists coming, and they want to be here in St. Martin. They want to participate with what's going on. They talk about the sea, the weather, they talk about the sand. All of those, the casinos, all the things that they come here to enjoy. But one of the things that they mentioned to me that is more than important is the service of the people, the friendliness. Where did we get that friendliness from, you think, Diedrick?
I think it's our upbringing. The island has always been known to tourists as a very friendly island. You, for example, in those days, if you're walking on Front Street and you wanted to know where such and such a store is, whoever you talk to probably would take you by the hand and take you
to the
exactly to the store. I mean, they had a lot of time on their hands.
So
too.
friendly we were.
Yeah, and so friendly.
Okay.
You know.
And that is one of the things that the tourists really appreciated with us here in St. Maarten. They continually keep on saying that to us. They said the people are amazing.
Yes.
They say they have not been in any Caribbean country where they see people that are so friendly.
Yes.
And that's why I asked you the question, where did we get that from? I know we had time on our hands back in the days, but I see it it's changing, and I'm getting very concerned about that. Because it's not like what it used to be back in the days. Back in the 70s, 80s, we were much more friendlier. What is happening today where we are losing that characteristic that we have of being the friendly island?
Well, I don't think that everything stays as is. There's always going to be changes, So it's like in those days it was slower. We had about maybe 30 or 40 cars on the road. Today, the traffic is horrendous. It's like, how can you get from point A to point B? It is just incredible. You're frustrated.
Yeah.
And frustration brings, what?
Yeah.
So, but things never stays the same.
No, of course. Especially when you're a country that is developing. The way St. Maarten have developed. When you look at St. Maarten today, I have seen pictures with the Great Salt Pond. For example, it didn't have any kind of dump or the sanitary landfill there. Didn't have those type of things. It used to look beautiful back in those days in those pictures. The lagoon, you had no situation where people very blue
white sand
beaches. You had those things that were
untouched.
Untouched. We were like virgins
Yes,
back in those days.
True.
But today things have changed so much, and I'm asking myself the question because all of us, and myself as a politician, sometimes we ask ourselves, can we go back to those days? Can we? Are we able to turn the clock around to be able to say we can become that country we were back in the 60s or 70s? Do you think that's possible?
Oh boy, that stuff. I doubt it. I doubt if you could go back to the friendliness of the people then. People had more time for themselves. Wasn't that rushing? Now you could go into Phillipsburg and you see 4 cruise ships in one time. Streets are crowded and everything is like rush. Let me buy, shop, and get back home on a ship. It's very, very different. So I don't think we could ever get back to those days.
But as a local St. Maarten, Diedrick, what would you want to see in St. Maarten change from what it is now, what the current situation is? Because there must be something that you would like to see change, or do you want to see it remain the way it is?
Well,
because the rushing, the traffic and stuff like that, will we be able to change that? Because one of the persons I've been speaking to a couple of days ago, I met someone, and they said to me, one of the things that we can do for St. Maarten is to probably maybe build more roads. And they said even that would be a problem because if we keep on imported cars, then we will have to continue to build roads. But we can also go to a point where we can have a cap on cars and say, these are the cars that we have. We limit the cars and don't go above those cars. What do you think?
Somewhat like Bermuda. It's like the cars are limited.
Okay.
And what helps Bermuda also is the mopeds, the motorcycles and whatnot that they have there that could maneuver between all the cars. But you got to put a cap to it somehow. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
And that's one of the things the tourists sometimes they're very they're uptight and they're in traffic a very long time because some of them have to come from the airport go all the way to Westin Hotel. They have to go to Oyster Bay. They got to go to all these places that are so distant away from the airport. And those are the things that we should, look into, because we're not going to be able to please the tourists if we're going to have a traffic jams all day, because they're going to ask themselves, when are we going to get to where we have to go on a very small island like St. Maarten? And St. Maarten is too small for that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have to come to a point where the government, parliament, going to have to put some cap and say, hey,
Yes.
we're not going to import any more cars. This is going to be the limit of the cars that we're going to have on St. Maarten. And with that, I think we will be able to, to kind of cut down on the traffic situation. We talk about business, we talk about the traffic. What about public transportation, Diedrick? I went to Aruba. I lived in Aruba for a while, Curacao. I just came back from the Netherlands, and I see that the public transportation in those places are well organized. What do you think we can do here in St. Maarten to organize our public transportation?
Well, I see some improvements already by putting those
Bus stops.
Bus stops. So that's a good start. What you probably need is more buses to mobilize the
people on the passengers.
The passengers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm running out of stuff.
One of the things is to Diedrick, when you look at, let's say, Point Blanche, you look at places like Dutch Quarter, places that they have a lot of persons have their own cars. The public transportation do not really run there as much, because these people, they know they're not going to get much money
They
from
have their
running
own
those
cars.
routes.
Yeah.
Because the routes that they run mostly is Phillipsburg, Mahouri, Phillipsburg, St. Peter's, Phillipsburg, Marigot. Those are the routes that they run.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do to kind of curb that, so that people that are living in Point Blanche, people that are living in, let's say, for example, Guana Bay, people that live in those areas are able to catch a bus and get home to where they are at? One of the things that I see in St. Maarten, and I don't know if we should make it a legal situation, I see a lot of gypsies that run on their own. They don't have any permit, and we're not getting any money from them as a government. But I don't know if we should legalize those gypsies, because one of the things that those gypsies have above the public transportation is the fact that if you go to the grocery and you have a lot of, let's say, grocery bags, etc., those gypsies are taking you directly to your home. So you're not going to have to walk a very far distance with your groceries. Another thing they do, that they go directly to where you live, and that's different than the routes that the regular buses take.
Yes.
So do you believe that the gypsies should be made legal? In Paris they call them, I think Europe they call them Ubers. You call an Uber, they come for you wherever you're at, and they drop you to exactly where you have to go.
Yes.
And that makes life easier for the person that has to go and want to get home. And if they have a lot of sacks with them or bags with them whenever they finish shopping and stuff like that. What are your thoughts where that is concerned?
I don't know. Is because I have my own transportation, or
You have it.
You have.
I have my own as well. But what about those persons that don't have transportation?
But those that are living in, let's say, Point Blanche, they have their own vehicles and whatnot that would drive straight to their garage, and I don't think that would be a good example of saying, well, okay, there's no chance to run from Phillipsburg or anywhere else back to Point Blanche, because like they are taken care of. They are more on an upward scale and
More middle class.
More middle class. So
Yeah,
they don't need that,
Yeah.
But it's maybe it's good to look into. I don't know.
Yeah,
that respect.
because there are people that work in Point Blanche. So I go to Point Blanche a lot because I had a house that was built in Point Blanche, and my brother lives in Point Blanche, my son, etc. Sometimes when I go to Point Blanche and I see people trying to get a ride, I stop for them and I take them into town, because one of the things that is that you don't get buses going to Point Blank because of that situation.
Right.
You know, and that's why I feel as a country, we should try to see what we can do in order to have, let's say, buses running to those areas for those people that don't have a vehicle. You know, so I believe that, and there's other places as well. West End, you don't get buses running there as well. You know, you have to take a taxi or a gypsy, etc. And gypsies have to, you know, I believe I believe it should be legalized so that government would be able to get at least some kind of tax or some kind of thing from them. And that way you wouldn't mind them running, but you should at least tell them they can only run from places where they take in the guests or the passengers directly to where they have to go. Because the public transportation, they are just taking a route, and they're taking the same. They're maintaining that same route, but they're not going into. Let's say if you're in an area, in an alley or so, they're not going to take you up to that alley.
No.
So you have to come off on the main road. You know, so those are the things that I think we should, you know, look into. Diedrick, we're coming to the ending of our interview, and I want to thank you so much for, you know, having to discuss dialogue with me here as one of St. Maarten local icons here. And I appreciate the fact that you were able to, you know, to interact with me by me just meeting you here and opening up my stuff and talking to you, you know. And I want to see more of the young people, you know, being able to do that as well, because a lot of our young people, they're very shy to, you know, to let's say go on camera or to speak or to interact with people or to go on a stage. And that is something that we have to break with our young people. We have to show them, and we have to be that example to them, to show them that if we can do it and I can do it, or you can do it, they can do it as well. Because when you go to the States, I mean, there's kids 12 and 13 and 14, very young kids. They're able to defend themselves, they're able to express themselves in a way that I believe is inseparable and impressive.
Yeah.
And I believe that it has to come from the school. You know, it must start in the school where you give them opportunities to be able to, you know, go out there and speak about different topics. You know, just last week we had a situation where we had the St. Maarten Academy and the St. Dominic High School. They were in a debate. You know, and those are things that I recommend. Those are things that I applaud doing.
Because it actually teaches you how to communicate.
Exactly.
How to express yourself.
Exactly.
You know, we should have more of those.
More of those. And I believe that government, whether it's those different social organizations like Lions Club, the Toastmasters, etc., there should be one of them, the JCs, they should be organizing such things all the time, and so that our young people would get the knack of speaking and being able to express themselves even much better. Diedrick, I want to thank you very much. Any last words you want to say before we close off?
No, I think what you're doing here, as you explained me, we should keep this as some sort of a record, because the older folks are passing away very quickly, and so we have to document certain things that the younger folks don't know anything about, and so that we could carry on. And I thank you very much for having me. I mean, it's something that we should follow up on.
Yeah, we will. And you'll hear much more of it as the time goes by. I'm going to be able to, all the persons that have done interviews, I'll be giving them the documentary of them interviewing and stuff like that, because it's important for you to have that, and you can pass it on to your children and to your grandchildren, and they can pass it on to their children and their children, so they would know exactly who their ancestors were. And that's the reason why we're doing, you know, these particular interviews with our local icons, you know. So I want to thank you again, Mr. Diedrick Cannegieter, for this interview that we did today. And we hope that those persons that were viewing, that they enjoy this particular broadcast, and that they will share it amongst others, that others would know. You know, there's a gentleman by the name of Diedrick Cannegieter living on St. Maarten that was a person that thought very, very well about his future. You know, I go back to speaking about the fact that he was able to see in the future that investing in things that were important, like the real estate that he invested in, today he can live comfortable without having any stress about paying bills and about being a person that would be able to take care of him and his family. So I want to thank you again. Have a great evening. We'll see each other some other time. And God bless you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Wish you luck with this.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.